Hi, thank you for joining me in the Guitar Comfort Zone. Today we will talk about the scale length of the guitar and your handspan and what that may mean for you as a guitar player. Your left hand has a continuous contact with the neck of the guitar, so it's really very, very important that that is a good fit. More than once I bought a guitar and I didn't bond with it because in the end the neck didn't feel good for me. Now that's not only when you buy online, it's also when you buy in a shop. At least in my case, you did a bit of research before you buy a guitar, and after research you're convinced that that's the guitar to buy. And when you go to the shop, you actually go there to buy the guitar. I think you should go there to try the guitar, but I know it's difficult, and when you test it there's maybe all kinds of people around. So I think it's important when you buy a guitar to have a good return policy at least. I think that is something you shouldn't forget in the enthusiasm of buying a guitar. Okay? Another thing is that what I'm giving here about scale length is guidelines, general guidelines. What may be good for me may not be good for you. And point two, which I think is really important, if you experience any pain or fatigue in your hands, maybe it's your technique, and it's a good idea to speak with a guitar teacher. Maybe something else is going on and you need help from a medical professional. I just wanted that, off my chest before I continue. Now, scale length is what we talk about today. And what is important in relation to that is handspan. Now, I'll give you my handspan. My handspan is, I hope you can see it, is 19 centimeters or 7.5 inches. That's rather short. That's the average handspan for a person that reaches till here, when I'm standing. Get a ruler and maybe measure your own handspan, because we'll talk about it a bit more in this video. Now, when you look at handspan and the way it's measured, it's like stretching your hand. It is most important for your reach on the guitar. Yeah? I think that's something to bear in mind also. Now, on top of having small hands, you can see that my fingers are also crooked when I bend them. So the whole issue of guitar comfort is obviously and clearly very, very dear to my heart. Now we go to the next part, scale length. Scale length is basically the part of the string that can move freely, and that is where the string leaves the bridge and where down the string leaves the saddle. That part is the scale length. Now, what scale lengths do we have? We have Fender full size, which is 25.5 inches or 648 millimeters. The other big one is Gibson with 628 millimeters or 14.75 inches. Less common, but still often seen, is the Fender short scale, which is, for example, the Mustang or the Jaguar. There we talk about 24 inches or 610 millimeters. Another common guitar is the Paul Reed Smith. I just have to tell you, I made the thumbnail for this video and I wanted to have a picture where you see me holding 4 guitars. That really didn't work. That's really difficult. Anyway, the PRS is 635 millimeters or 25 inches. People say it's in the middle between Fender and Gibson. It's not. It's much closer to the Gibson. So when you change from a Gibson scale length to a PRS, you will, I think, hardly feel any difference. The difference between the PRS and the Fender full size, like a Stratocaster or a Telecaster, is much more, and you'll probably notice that. Scale length, I think, that's a bit abstract, and I want to make it a bit, how you say that, make it real for you in a way. So I have these yellow cards. and they represent the length of the first 5 frets. Here you see 6/48 scale, or 25.5 inches on a Fender full scale, and it exactly hits the middle of the 5th fret. Now, in order to compare these first 5 frets on the full-size Fender with the short scale Fender of 610 millimeters, I'll put a card here, and you see that the first 5 frets on the full scale Stratocaster are much longer than on this short scale guitar. And that gives you an idea how much bigger that Stratocaster is than this guitar, right? Short scale Fenders is like Mustang, Jaguar. I think it might be useful to compare the full scale Fender also with the Gibson. And you see that the Fender is also a bit longer than the Gibson. And here you can see what in practice the difference actually is. I hope this helps. Yet another way to look at it is just I play a C7 chord on the full-size Fender. I don't move my hand position, I stretch. You can see I can hardly reach the 4th fret. Now I do the same thing on a Les Paul. C7, don't change my hand, and I stretch, and you see that I reach well below the 4th fret, not the 5th, the 4th fret. Right? So I hope these illustrations make it real what it may mean. And I encourage you to experiment with these things yourself. Okay, now we have an idea what scale length actually means. We have to translate that now to handspan. You know, how do these two relate? So here you will see a table. Remember, my handspan was 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. I hope you also measured your handspan. Now, if we look at the table, you see that my handspan, the recommendation for my handspan of 19 centimeters would be in the region of a Gibson 628 or 24.75 scale, and which is true. I do like that as a scale length, and you can see that I can relatively comfortably cover these first 4 frets, while with the Fender that was just a bit more difficult. So that's how that table works. The idea is to match your handspan to a scale length. Again, and I keep on repeating that, I'll repeat it later, scale length is not the only thing that makes a guitar comfortable or uncomfortable for you. It's really not the only thing. And think about this for example. You know, you have like a handspan like mine, but you have super, super thick fingers. And maybe a handspan even smaller than mine. And you look at the chart and they would recommend you something in the range of a Fender Mustang, but with your very thick fingers you can't navigate the fretboard comfortably because that's, you know, your fingers just don't fit. So, you know, be reasonable when you think about this recommendation. It's just, you know, sort of a ballpark figure. It's a general thing, and maybe it doesn't work for you. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about that. Now, there are 2 other things that are related to scale length. First thing is that a shorter scale length sounds warmer, and a longer scale length may be more bell-like, more bright, if you like. It's not really bright, it's more bell-like, I think is the right word. Another thing is that if you use, for example, 942 strings on your full scale Fender, 648 millimeters, 15.5 inches, right? 942. It's quite normal on this scale length. You would use those same strings on the short scale 610. That's almost 4 centimeters difference. That's quite a bit. The strings would be, with the same standard tuning, floppy. They would feel floppy. So you would change your strings, probably, if you change scale length. Now, I don't think these 2 things about the sound and the strings is really that important, and you wouldn't have to base let's say, any decisions or buying decisions on that, but I just wanted you to know that. Okay, in conclusion, what do we think? These are just broad recommendations. Everybody's hand, everybody's body is different, so it remains a personal thing. Look at the numbers I gave you as guidelines, maybe a starting point to do your own experimentation. I encourage you to experiment with it. Who knows what you find? Maybe you find a scale length that you prefer. The other thing is that by no means is scale length the only thing that determines how comfortable a guitar neck is for you. I'm going to make another video about those things, but be aware of that. Other thing is buying decisions. In a sense, when you try a guitar, be sure that you can return it, because it's so important whether the guitar neck is a good fit for your hand. Be very critical when you buy. Take your time in a shop, get a return policy. Those things are important. Anyway, you have any questions about this, please ask me. If you do things differently or you have different idea, please tell me, because this is a subject really dear to my heart, and I'm curious to know. This is not some YouTube thing, oh please engage with me in a discussion. No, I really want to know about these things, because I spent a lot of time to research hand size and hand shape and stuff like that, so I'm really interested in your experiences. You want me to review a guitar? Ask me. If you have any other questions, ask me. If I can, I will answer. I hope this video was informative for you. If it was, please give me a like or consider, subscribing to this channel. It really would help me, and I thank you already for doing that. And in the meantime, I enjoyed doing this. I hope it was useful for you, and in the meantime, have a wonderful day.